Like, why was he not so pissed off at this? She's like, I spent 10 years on this hellhole
And you're
with
telling
these
me
fucking
you came
turtles,
back
and
and you're about to, and Thrawn
just,
now has a chance to go back after Kanan died. All the
what the
people that
hell
we
are you
knew that were
doing?
part of the rebels
You,
died fighting Thrawn. I trapped myself for 10 years and you just said, fuck it.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Heroes Peak podcast. I am your host, Chris, and we're here to talk about Star Wars today. And with me, we've got a wonderful host, the Four Turtles, coming to us straight from Canada, the angry one. It's Mike. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. Can't wait to talk about Ahsoka, man. Let's get it going.
Okay, we got our pizza lover, James. How you doing?
I feel more like Raphael than Michelangelo, but let's get this going, man. Let's get this going.
Well, I got this wrong, so it's, I guess, our tech lover is Andrew. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm great. Just finished watching the season finale like minutes ago, so I'm ready to
He's
ready
got
to go.
fresh
Ready to talk
thoughts,
about
fresh,
this.
unprejudiced
fresh thoughts.
thoughts. The three of us are already prejudiced. You are fresh.
Fresh
I'm gonna
mozzarella.
correct you guys
All right.
so much in this episode.
All right. And since I'm leading this corral, I'll go with wow, I just blanked. Donatello, Michelangelo,
Leonardo.
Raphael, Leonardo. Jesus Christ.
I'm revoking
What am
your
I?
Gen X card, man.
I'm a fake fan, man. Fake fan. Jeez. This is going to be a good night. My brain is going to blank out a few times, I'm sure. All right. So we are actually talking about Ahsoka, the Disney Plus television series. 8 episodes. Just finished yesterday. So, let's hear what we got. We got this is a follow-up to the Star Wars Rebels animated series, which I never watched. Andrew, did you watch Star Wars Rebels?
I haven't seen Rebels, maybe a handful of episodes.
This is going to be interesting.
Yeah,
So
me
this
too.
is pretty fresh. Yeah, pretty fresh for me.
So apparently we have a 10-year gap where a mysterious map, Disney loves a mysterious map. Like, I'm noticing they just got to put a map everywhere, and that's how they move plots along here. We find a mysterious map that possibly locates our missing Ezra and Thrawn, which is supposed to be a threat. Whether they write it as a threat, we'll see. And our heroes want to find and save their friend, while a new ex-Jedi and Night Sister alliance want to bring back Thrawn and the Empire for some reason. All right, how are we going to talk about this? Why don't we just go down the characters? Because I think it's going to be instead of going episode to episode, we're going to talk about characters, whether they have good character arcs, whether we liked how they were portrayed in this, because a lot of them are jumping either first time appearance for us here or have had very, very few appearances in live action. So we're going to start, of course, with our titular character. It's Ahsoka. So Ahsoka appears to us. We've only, if you haven't seen any animated, we've seen her once in Boba Fett and once in
Mando season 1. And also Mando season 2 with Luke and Grogu.
Or was that
was the Boba episode?
Oh, my bad. You're right. Yeah. I apologize.
Yeah,
forget Boba Fett, right?
But you're right. It was Mando season 2.5.
Pretty much Mando's. Yeah, man. Yeah.
So Ahsoka comes to us here, and she's a little wary of her spot. I mean, she's the one finding the map, but she seems a little hesitant about her place right about now. So what did you guys think of Ahsoka and that character in general? James, let's go with you first.
Well, you raised a problem. One of many problems. Me watching the Rebels and Clone Wars, understanding the backstory, I get it, what they're trying to do, but I also see major gaps in getting that to a wider audience. So Ahsoka, I mean, first she was cast out of the Jedi Order and then had to defend herself. And even when after she was proven innocent, she was like kind of turned away from the Jedi Order and decided to go on her own. And then we don't see her again until later on in Rebels, and some key episodes of Rebels. Then there's a time jump of some sort that we see her again in Mando season one, with actually one of the characters that we see in this show, Morgan, and she seems obviously a lot older. You do the math in your head; it's been like 20, maybe not 20 years, like 10, 15 years later, and she's now on some sort of a mission on vendetta to get Thrawn, and then some more backstory to that. But watching this show, just focusing on this show, there's so much about her that just doesn't get answered. Like, what got her to be in this mood where she is like so melancholy and like so like glass half empty. It's just like the show doesn't, even for someone as experienced as myself and Mike, who watches all of these shows. There's like a disconnect, and again, this is Dave Filoni. He created the character. He's the creator of the character. There's a disconnect between young Ahsoka, older Ahsoka in the animated shows, and the Ahsoka we've been getting in the live action. I can't attribute that to Rosario Dawson. So when you ask me a question, what's my take on Ahsoka as a general? First of all, I don't think this is an Ahsoka show. I think this is Rebels season 6 or 5, whatever it's supposed to be, a live action. Because although she's a titular character, Brookes somewhere laughing, it feels more like an ensemble, like Lost, the TV show, where at some point you realize Jack was the main protagonist, but throughout the show, it was really a combination of other Locke and Kate and Sawyer, so to some extent Ben from the antagonist side. So I don't even think this is an Ahsoka show, and that goes back to a much larger issue I have is not only is this show not really giving you more about Ahsoka and what happened to this point where she is so like down on a lot of things and she failed her only Padawan, and she still has trauma with Anakin and trauma with the Jedi. She keeps saying Jedi Order didn't do things right. Okay, we get it, but it's been 15 years later. Like, what have you been doing since? We get none of that. We just get a bunch of information that are thrown by other characters around Ahsoka that's left us to kind of fill in the gaps ourselves. So this is one of many problems, Chris, and I don't be long-winded about it, but just to answer your question, and I think they failed the character, in my opinion.
All right. Mike.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. After that 30-minute rant, we are out of time. Appreciate you joining us tonight. All right. So I'm just going to add a couple things because I'm pretty much in agreement with what James is saying. As the other person here who's seen all of Rebels and Clone Wars, I'm going to add that Filoni is like an opposite J.J. Abrams for me. His shows really always start off really loose and very lots of questions, but he does wrap things up nicely. He wrapped up Clone Wars nicely, especially with that season 7. Rebels was wrapped up nicely. So I give him that. I'll give it to him that he may start off not great, but by the time he's got the entire story in his head, as opposed to J.J. Abrams, who left when we finished Lost, I was like, what? I think we have the opposite effect here. So I'm hoping, as we get to season 2, I agree. It wasn't really the Ahsoka show this season. It was more of Rebels season 5. I'm okay with that. I would like to see, so if they're stranded here where they are now and they're heading towards the what do you call it, the statues and the power.
Yeah.
Right.
The Mortis gods.
So hopefully we'll get some more flashbacks of what happened to her. We'll get some more story. So hopefully we'll see some more details there, right?
Andrew, as a fellow and I love animation, but I just have not gotten into these ones specifically.
Yeah, I want to sit now after having finish this season.
Right.
I definitely want to like. I don't know if I'm gonna do Clone Wars. I don't know if I can like have the time to do Clone
Right.
Wars. I think I can do Rebels, and I think it's important if we're gonna if I'm gonna go forward and continue to watch this series, Ahsoka. It became one of those things that like I stopped telling people I was watching Ahsoka that were Star Wars fans because it's always followed by "You didn't see Rebels." Like it's always like it's become one of those like it's like, oh, have you when with the Game of Thrones thing, like if you haven't seen Game of
Yeah,
Thrones, you have to
I know what it's
hear
like
it
to
from
not
everybody.
have
Yeah.
seen Grave of
Right,
Thrones.
right. So it's like so that became the thing number one. But so I can only speak on the character Ahsoka
Hmm.
as a person who barely knows her, and I have to say I can only speak on things that are on a very like almost like just not deep characteristics,
Hmm.
but just how like what she is on the surface, which is to me is like she's such a badass. Like I'm like, are they make like I don't know what Dave Filoni what he drafted her to like what he drafted her to be like, but it seems as if he put her up there as far as like Jedi, like just fighter skills. Like
Hmm.
there's different types of Jedi, right? And some of them are more of the philosopher type. Like they say that Yoda, is strong with the Force, but Mace Windu was like nobody can compare with him with a light like nobody was as good
Hmm.
with a lightsaber as Mace. So
Yeah, he created
it
his
seems
own
as if
form
they're
of
putting
lightsaber duel. Correct.
right. So it seems like they like I don't know, you guys know more than I do, but it seems like they really put her up there as like this just really excellent lightsaber wielder cuz all of her fights are really just really cool to watch. Like
Hmm.
she's got the double lightsaber action and the choreography and they really make her style like, they refer to her as a Ronin, which I really see that Dave Filoni's throwing that at her, like that mysterious, like where did she come from, like masterless samurai thing, and the way she strikes and moves is just so cool to me. But I could if I had seen the show, like I could definitely understand the points that you're making, but for me, like this was just like a roller coaster watching these awesome like lightsaber duels and her relationship with
Wow,
Sabine
that's
was
such an
really cool to
interesting
me.
take. Chris, may
Yeah.
I know Chris hasn't gone yet, but can I just piggyback on something that he just said here? Because this is very interesting.
Andrew,
Um,
are you done? Is that
Oh yeah,
about
yeah,
where you
yeah,
want
yeah,
to be? Okay,
definitely.
go
yeah,
ahead.
I won't take too long, I promise this time. So for me, knowing the character and watching her animation, and then watching this show, I actually have to disagree with their lightsaber techniques because I feel like, with the exception of the scene where young Ahsoka is shown in a flashback during Clone Wars and Siege of Mandalore, it was very, and I think this is Rosario Dawson, her her commitment to not have a stunt double for the most part, for her to actually perform the stunts. It just looked it so stilted. And I love the fact that you mentioned that she's a badass because in the animation, the shows, both Clone Wars and Rebels, she is the
Yeah.
ultimate
Oh yeah.
female badass. Before we had Rey, before we had Jen Erso, whatever, she was carrying that. Obviously, we had Leia somewhere, but she was carrying that crown in the animated shows. For those of us who knew about it, and we were looking forward to the live action version of that. And I'm not the only one. I'm not on an island. There's a lot of folks that have the same issues with this live action rendition of her and her fighting style. It doesn't live up to her animated version, and probably shouldn't because again,
All right,
cartoons
all right.
you can do everything in
So
cartoons, whereas live
Uh,
action. So that's I just want to make sure I got that point across because I was for someone that hasn't seen the animation shows to really enjoy it. That's something interesting that I think we
Chris,
should
you've
probably
seen
really
season
dig
7
in.
of Clone Wars, right? Her arc,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
right? We had
mm-hmm.
episode 3.
Yes,
Andrew, so
I
I'm
do.
going to recommend to you don't watch the whole series. Just watch the last
Hmm.
6 episodes of season 7. Because the first three are
Oh,
about the
okay.
Bad
I
Batch,
could do
so you
that.
don't worry about that. But Bad Batch
Bad
is
Batch is
great
great,
Okay.
by
also.
the way.
Yeah,
If you
but
want,
Yeah,
but
it just
Yeah.
that's a
focuses on
different
them.
thing.
Watch the
another thing I
last
can't
6 episodes, and that's her arc after she left the
Hmm.
the Jedi Order, and then all the way up to it syncs through
Hmm.
episode 3 at the time of Order 66, and you'll see how amazing she was during that time. Yeah.
Hmm.
Cool.
There also, I guess, another question: do you watch any of those limited and Star Wars animations that come out? They just released like one that was a bunch of different separate stories.
I saw that, and the Ahsoka episode was so so
Mm-hmm.
It was
good. Like
great.
the like
They had
Yeah.
that was
the
the
baby
best
episode
one.
and then
Yeah,
her after the fact. Great stuff. So
that was called Legends.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think like Star Wars Legends. Right?
that's
Yeah,
right. That's right.
that was great.
So
Yep.
I do
She
have that.
goes to Padme's funeral.
Yeah, I do.
That was an excellent
It
episode.
is okay.
Yeah, I'm the character's growing on me, is what I'm saying. A
So
lot.
I'm actually gonna talk about James' point, and that is that any character that starts out in animation, their first live action person is probably gonna disappoint you. So my it, the first live action Batman I saw was obviously Adam West, right? And so Batman I was reading in the comics was jumping off of rooftops and like kicking
Hey, Adam West
guys
kick
and
guys.
like, all sorts of, but and Adam West
Yeah,
came
I
out and did
disagree
a
with this,
pop
but
pow,
let
and
Chris
then
cook.
and then Michael Keaton came on screen and the guy couldn't even turn his head, but he was cool anyway, right? I don't mind that someone doesn't live up to their animated version as long as you've got decent cinematography and choreography for them. And I thought, and I'm going to agree with Andrew here, I thought the best parts of this show were the
I
individual
agree.
one-on-one
I
fights.
agree.
The group fights were terrible. The one-on-one fights I thought were fantastic, and I think that was pretty consistent throughout the show. So I just wanted to say that my version, what I saw, but I think Ahsoka, she's such an interesting character, but because this show wasn't interested in going to like this is about Ahsoka show, we got one really great episode, really delving into her mental state, into what she feels about her past, and maybe how it affects her present. And that was probably the best episode of the series. That was episode 5, where she goes into the world between worlds, which I was worried
Yeah,
about because I didn't think that was going to work in modern Star Wars for me, but it did. I went back and watched it again today because I wanted to see it again, um, and it really lent to an emotional attachment for characters, and not just because I'm not a prequels guy, so I'm not this like married to, as soon as I see Anakin Skywalker, I'm gonna freak out and I'm gonna post to Twitter that I'm throwing up and crying because he's on my screen. So I'm not that connected to that character, but this episode and that scene specifically really did a lot for this show. And I thought, this if there's more of this, if this continues, this is going to be a great series. But alas, it was not where this series went. So, my last question, was Ahsoka a good teacher? Like, to Sabine in this? Like, was she like a terrible teacher, or is it just me thinking it was, or was Sabine just a terrible student?
They're both terrible. They're both terrible.
Okay, because
They're both.
neither one were living
Sabine
up
was
to what I
obviously
was.
the worst of the two because even in this finale, I thought Sabine just was. I don't know what she was thinking. Like nothing about her character. Me again, Andrew. You have to watch. Maybe this Rebels is probably a little deeper dive for you to do to understand the Sabine character if you're interested.
And that's where we're going next. So if you want to go on Sabine,
And
James, go for it.
but to just close out the Ahsoka part to answer
Mm-hmm.
Chris's question is I think I was hoping from the episode the World Between Worlds with her coming to realization about Anakin's families and teachings that she would kind of right the ship a little bit more, which I thought they
Yes.
started to do in episode 6. But damn, it just fell. That whole storyline just disappeared and fell flat because there was so much other things happening. The Night Sisters and Thrawn and Ezra, like they never came to a conclusion on her teachings with Sabine and what she learned from Anakin that she was now going to impart onto Sabine. Like I didn't see that. So to me, yes, to answer your question, Chris, yes, she was a terrible teacher, but
Uh,
not all because of her fault. Is
mm-hmm.
the student also had a part to play.
All right, we're going to talk about Sabine now because really The as much as this show was about Ahsoka, supposedly, Sabine really took over the episodes kind of late, and um, she. I love the introduction of Sabine. I think the character is really interesting. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas in this. Some things, again, I don't understand, but I have some very limited knowledge, which is very dangerous in the geek world of having limited osmosis knowledge of characters. And one of those is that she was practicing with the dark saber, which seems to me to be the reason for Jedi's helping this Mandalorian train with a sword. But then we come to this show, and I see she's supposedly a actual Jedi student of Ahsoka, ex student, but isn't, but is, but we have our robot friend, David Tennant, Huang, right? Huang, telling us that she is pretty much useless when it comes to the Force. Now, this brings up a larger questions about the access to the Force and usage of the Force, but we'll get to that after. So don't do the Force stuff yet. Let's talk about the character, the introduction, and her kind of journey throughout this series of being unsure of herself and who she is to becoming a force wielding Jedi slash Mandalorian combo, awesome badass person. Andrew, I want to let you go first because you know less about this character too. I want you,
Sure.
so within this framework, what did you think of Sabine?
Well, just before I start that, I just want to say one thing about what we mentioned before about Ahsoka being a bad teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Can we all just remember that Star Wars is filled with horrible mentors? Like,
Yes, it's
so many mentors
it,
failed in
it's
Star
even
Wars.
mentioned in this series how bad of a
Bad, like the Jedi, like they don't have a great track record for teaching.
absolutely.
But but as far, but as far as Sabine goes, I would say I was a little less interested in her. Again, not knowing the series, I would say I was a little less like interested. She seemed like a very take it or like for someone who hasn't seen anything. Like she's a very take it or leave it character. She didn't really mean much to me.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to develop a lot of like conflict with her within, and it just didn't. It just really didn't develop that much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I felt as if they wanted to go somewhere with her, and by the end, like what did we have? Like I don't know, a little stale on the character. As far as her, like same thing I feel with Ahsoka. Like the action scenes with her were really cool. Like my favorite action scene in this entire season was the first time that Ahsoka and her like team up to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought that scene was cool. Like it was a combination of her trying to use the lightsaber and then realizing she sucked and she had to go back to her guns.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Against
she
Shin, right
reminds
in
me
the
of
forest.
right, and she reminds me of Wolverine, where because she has that armor, she gets hit. Do you notice she gets hit the most
Yeah, it's
all the time?
like
Like
yes.
she gets shot the most, suffers the most shots because she has the armor on her. So yeah, I thought her action scenes were good, but the character, it was like I said, a very take it or leave it character for me.
All right, Mike, we'll go in reverse order here.
Yeah, so just to add on to what Andrew was saying, I mean, again, the point, I mean, it is the Ahsoka show, so I don't really care if they have not developed Sabine fully, right? One thing Filoni loves to do is give us a character we hate in the beginning and then love by the end. And I wonder if he's doing a reset with Sabine here as well. For example, when Ahsoka started in Clone Wars, everyone hated her. When that movie came out in '08 and Ahsoka was assigned as Anakin's Padawan, everybody was like, "What is this? Star Wars is dead. It's ruined." Blah blah blah. By season 7, she was everybody's favorite character. Same thing with Ezra at the beginning of Rebels. He was just an annoying little kid, you know, and then everybody grew to love him. So I wonder if Filoni has a knack of bringing you a character that irritates you at first and then you love. So if he's doing the same thing here, okay, that'll work for me. Obviously, she had some issues after Ezra left, and I don't know, and her and Ahsoka fell out. So I mean, and with the whole Jedi thing, I mean, it's stated that everyone's got the Force in them, so we won't get too much into that. But you know, it's yeah, it is what it is, right? So
All right. For an alternative take, let's go to James.
Hot take coming up. Um, just to close out, and I hate to do this, but to close out what Andrew said earlier about the terrible teachers. I give you that. However, in the context of the entire Star Wars anthology, you got to give credit to Obi-Wan, first of all, on the lessons he tried to impart on Anakin and then Luke later on, that some didn't take and some did take.
That's
And
all
then
Qui
Yoda,
Gon's fault. That's not Obi Wan's fault.
yeah, and then Yoda as well. They were terrible at being bureaucrats and administrators. They were terrible at that. But when it came to teachers of the Force, I think at least those two stand among the rest. Now, Sabine. Um, Mike, you mentioned something that is true of Dave Filoni and a lot of the characters in Rebels. Um, he said, even what's his name, the Imperial officer Callus, I believe.
yeah,
Like he sets it up where you despise them, and by the end of the show,
right.
you warm up to them. But this is different with Sabine because he already had 4 seasons where he established Sabine's character, and now in a live action of only 6, 7, 8
Eight.
episodes,
Eight.
8 episodes for him to just it's a reset of the character that is not positive and in my opinion doesn't contribute anything to the narrative, the story, or the development of that character. I think she took a major step back from the Sabine that we knew, that was headstrong yet was loyal to her clan, that was
Hmm.
loyal to Mandalore, that was loyal to her little group of Zeb, rest in peace wherever you're at. um,
Uh oh.
He's working for the Republic.
well, we saw him a little bit
Yeah.
in Mando, right? Was it Mando we saw him a little bit? Yeah, the last episode of Mando. But the point is, like, I felt like for whatever reason, he sidelined her and just made her a nuisance. Like she was a nuisance. She was like a plot device that was
Mm.
terrible. Like if you really want to look at Sabine's character, her plan of trying to bring Ezra home, yeah, ultimately it won, but Ahsoka told her at what cost. Like they're trapped on this planet. Ahsoka's trapped with her. She made a bad decision. Uh, Everything that she did from episode 1 through episode 8 showed to me like this character was on a suicide mission. It felt like, and that wasn't the Sabine in the show, Mike. You have to go back
Oh,
and
I know
analyze the
that.
Sabine
I
that
know
we
that.
grew up. Yeah, so like for example, like Andrew and Chris don't know this character from from a pig in a blanket. They're like,
Right.
oh, that's just
But
how
no,
she
she's
is.
not.
Okay,
Yeah.
moving along. But for the rest of us, we're like, what the fuck is going on with Sabine? Like, so that's my take on my hot
I,
take on
I
Sabine.
mean, we could
I
get
think
Yeah,
I
I
think she
into.
thought.
was the worst written character of this show. I believe was Sabine, and then after that was that the senator from whatever
No
his name.
man, no way. That guy is so
I mean,
terrible.
but
One
we could
A,
get
one B.
into how many characters have made terrible decisions in Star Wars with the king of them all, Anakin, right?
Well, let me go into that because Sabine here, she kind of got forced, and we got to look. Dave Filoni wrote all of this, so everything that happens is coming out of his brain. So you take, and he knows these characters. Everybody says it. He is the king of Star Wars lore. So whatever his take on them, he wanted to take this character and make her the plot device. She's the one who has to be at odds with herself, her identity. So this whole Mandalorian versus Jedi thing, and then against everybody else is going, hey, I know you want Ezra back, but we gotta find it. We gotta take our time. But also the most important part was we got rid of Thrawn, but she doesn't see it that way. So the headstrong thing does translate to what she did, but it was not in a I'm going to go against the grain headstrong way. It was more of a I'm conflicted and I'm willing to sacrifice the entire galaxy for what I want, which is a very different kind of character, which is a very negative character trait
She
to
was
have.
groomed to be a leader, a person of power with good leadership skills
Mhm.
in the animated show. And
Yeah,
this live
def-
action show just kind of threw
yeah, I
everything.
definitely saw none of that here. Um, they really tossed a lot on this character and made her do things, and this is probably my biggest problem with the show. Okay, and that is the lack of real conflict. So I don't care if a character makes a horrid decision, just totally bungles everything, but they really have to pay for that. E- and it's no point did anybody look at her and go, "What the fuck did you do? This is your fault, Sabine. This
You
man's about to
crashed the
destroy the
ghost into, not the ghost, the
right,
plane into, like,
the plane into the thing.
and she just
You
walked away like a badass.
right? You really gotta stop and fucking think through some of these things. Like at no point did anyone lay down the law for her and have her have a full out actual emotional interaction anywhere in the show. Everybody
They told her not
nobody
to take the map. She took the map. Guess what? The bad guys got the map
right.
from the first episode.
But at no point did anybody make a facial expression beyond maybe stubbing your toe, right? It was the whole thing just felt very flat in that perspective, and I blame the writing slash directing on that. All right, let's jump over to the next character. We'll talk Hera. This should be pretty quick. She was mostly very background, but I think her whole point was to show the incompetence of the New Republic and how much it had its head in the sand and was refusing to do anything. Much like a lot of governments that they're very standoffish about wanting to get into conflicts, even though they're continuously in conflicts, or at least look like they're in conflicts. So I don't think Mary Elizabeth Winstead, got a lot to do, even. And again, this is much in the writing and in the directing. Even when stuff was happening that should have been big and important, people were just, oh, hey, look, they've got an engine. Oh no, it's. All right, I don't know if I didn't explain that very well, but I think you guys get what I mean.
Yeah.
Let's go around the horn. James, what do you think of Hera and the incompetent New Republic government?
I mean, I think she's one of the bright spots of the show. I did listen to a couple other podcasts where they were nitpicking her leadership style now as an executive officer in the New Republic, where she's basically challenging. She doesn't come up with evidence to prove her case in point. I
She's
mean,
still a rebel. She's just a rebel. She's not.
exactly. And she, unlike many of these executive officers, she was in the trenches. Like she was in the middle of all the battles. And from what we've surmised, she was also in the Battle of Endor that ended the war. So she's always going to be a little bit like pessimistic about things. She's always going to be on cue. It's like one of those former generals in Vietnam who, like, even in peacetime, they're always like surveilling and second guessing everything, as opposed to a senator or a congressman who's elected and has no battle experience. Is more like, let's just not worry about that. So
That guy's a plant, by the way. He's definitely a
yeah, he's
plant.
definitely a New World Order. What did they call him in
New
First
World Order.
Order? The First Order plant.
He's a Hulk Hogan fan.
I just wish that they showed her character a little bit more with her son Jason, who we know is to be Kanan's son from the animated show,
Mm-hmm.
who's a Force user. Um, they gave you tidbits of that, and I think they probably could have spent more time with that development than all the Night Sisters bullshit that we got. But I think Hera's character portrayed well and performed well by Mary Elizabeth Winston, and one of the brighter spots of the cast and characters of the show.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, I thought it was just enough of Hera during this season, showing off her.
By the way, yeah, a little bit more of Hera could have been shown to me.
Nothing.
What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about.
You and McGregor, I salute you.
She was in Grindhouse
That's right.
alongside Rosario Dawson.
Um,
Right? Yeah.
mm,
Scott Pilgrim.
yes. Um, yeah. So
All
I
right,
thought it
okay.
was.
Now Mike's thinking about it. Mike's like, those pants.
That's
That's
why you
right.
got that orange shirt.
All right, go
Okay.
ahead. Or
So I think she was shown enough in this season. Brought on. I want to see for next season, since Thrawn's back. I want to see her leading the charge against him. Right. That's what I want her role to be. So um, I didn't need like a whole thing that like her. To me like the whole thing with her and Jason. It was all like member berry stuff for me. So yeah, I think so. They didn't do any,
it
they
wasn't
didn't
really
do
doing
anything with it,
anything in the
right? That's
series.
why. Yeah.
I,
So if we see more of it next season, that would be good. But right now, there's nobody really to train Jason. You know, so he's basically
and Wang told him no. Wang's like, no,
so
I ain't touching you,
basically he's a
kid.
co-pilot right now. And of course, I love seeing Chopper and Chopper at the end recognizing that hey, wait, that's Ezra. You know, so
Chopper's
that's
gonna
right.
stab the senator. I really want to see that. He's like, hold me back. Did he just say that? Hold me
Yeah,
back.
Andrew and Chris, you guys really don't know what Chopper's capable of
Chopper's killed.
doing.
What
Because
was it?
people
50,000.
call him
I
war
can
criminal in
I
the
think. I
cartoon
think
show.
his.
I
No,
I saw a YouTube
yeah.
video. I saw a YouTube video where they're like he's a
His body
psychopath.
count is about
Right.
50,000 right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's no
Gosh.
joke. Seriously. Wow.
No, I gotta watch Rebels.
All right. So Andrew, what do you think of Hera and the New
Um,
Republic government and kind of that side of the
yeah,
show?
yeah. So I think for me, her character is there to navigate us through this young New Republic. Like that's the purpose of her character in
Mm-hmm.
this season. And I really enjoy the idea of this idea that the New Republic kind of just sucks. Like they're trying to get it together, and it's just more bureaucracy. And in a sense, like they toe the line between like an actual New Republic and becoming just another empire, right?
Right.
Like there's more bureaucracy, there's more like rules, and she represents like she's the spirit of the Rebel Alliance, and she's going to be defiant to anything that she sees is like goes in the direction of an empire. And remember, the New Republic fails eventually, right?
Yeah.
By the time we get 7, 8, and 9, Princess Leia is so fed up with the New Republic that she creates her own military,
The
basically.
Right.
resistance.
So we have to get from Return of the Jedi, where they're so optimistic about a New Republic, to where when we get to Leia and Luke, where Luke just disappears and Leia's like, I'm doing my own thing. So I think they're starting to really um, tell that story of how the New Republic just kind of didn't work out, and I enjoy that sort of thing. I think that's good storytelling in general.
Yeah, I think we really need some of that. I just hope we get more of the Tony Gilroy style of how
Thank
bad can a
you. I was
government
gonna
be,
say it.
and this like really ineffective Mon Mothma going, like Mon Mothma was a senator during that time. She should be somebody that's a bit as a character more forceful and more opinionated on what should be happening. And I would love to see because even during the war, watching Andor, we see her wanting a peaceful resolution, but knowing it can't be peaceful and having to sacrifice for that. But she should be like she could have been her and Hera could have been a great at odds where Hera's like, we need this military and we need to still be at high alert for any of this. And Mon Mothma could be, no, we are at peace. I fought for this peace. I was there just as much as you were. I sacrificed as much as you did, and I want peace.
Yeah.
Like I think there's great odds there, story wise. A lot of food to eat in that story, and
That
they
could
just
be like the
ignored it.
version of Captain America and Iron Man and Civil War, where you see both of their points of view, but they both are right. but they're at odds of each other. That's a perfect.
Right.
Again, we're writing
So you
stuff
know
for
what?
the
You know what I
show
think the
that
main
doesn't
problem
exist.
is, because when we watched Clone Wars and Rebels, we got like 22, 23 episodes a season, and they told Filoni you can have 8 episodes. You know?
Well, this is the problem because
Yeah.
Andor had 12. So Andor takes 12 episodes and managed to give us a three-piece, kind of
Hmm.
four-piece story, and within that, we get to see the ineffectual yet effectual Empire, as well as the other stories. It can be done.
Yeah, but I feel like their budget limited them to because all of that
I'm
green screen and all that CGI probably killed the
well.
episode.
I think there's a failure in the idea that there isn't enough time. If we said, okay, look, this other senator who's just going to be a pain in the ass and say the wrong thing, he doesn't need to be there. I think there's a better conflict with the government and the ex rebels
True,
that can be had. There's just
true,
the writing's not
but
there.
this is
That's all I'm
Ahsoka.
gonna say.
This is not. There's no time to discuss this in committee. You know what I mean? So
But they stopped and had an entire Hera being in front of the Senate
yeah, it could have
episode.
been
Yeah,
written
Like
better.
if they're
Yeah,
gonna do
like
it,
you
obviously.
would be right.
Yeah.
They did do that.
so
They
if you're gonna
literally
stop and
discussed
do
it
that,
in committee.
right? If you're gonna do
But
it, then do it because there was multiple scenes where Hera had to talk or explain things or get permission. Like if they didn't want to show it, just say Hera, like have the character say, "I'm gonna go get us permission." Oh, I couldn't get permission, so I did it anyway. Like just ignore that entire side if you want to ignore it. That's fine. But if you're gonna
Well,
show
just
it,
just just going with what James said about the Tony Stark Captain America dynamic, I think it would be a great storyline if we come to learn that within the years of the New Republic before 789, there was a civil war. That would be pretty interesting if
mhm,
there was a faction divide and they had to figure that out. Like
it
that would be an interesting
that
storyline.
would be a great way to have this failure. Why they're not seeing the rise of the old whatever. All right.
Right.
So without writing any more future episodes, okay, the actual interesting new characters here, Balin and Shin. So Balin had obviously, from what he said, an ex Jedi, went was in the Jedi Order and has fallen out, and he has taken his own apprentice, who is Shin. Now, unfortunately, Ray Stevenson, who plays Balin, has passed. Rest in peace. So we will be getting a cast new because this whole show ends with him obviously looking towards what his future plan is. All right. So he was the one character where we actually got vocalized a vocalized motivation without an explanation. And then like they kind of let that flounder and say we're going to do that next season. And then Shin as the apprentice has some great um her and Sabine, some great energy, some great antagonistic energy between those two, and then she just kind of gets left by the wayside in the finale, which kind of sucked. So these are I thought these were two relatively well executed, interesting, at least on a base level characters. Did you guys think they were given justice? Do you think it's okay that we wait till season 2 for more of them? Uh, did you think their motivations were cool? What have you? Andrew, I'm gonna let you go.
So the very first scene of this series, when they get onto the ship, I thought that was very cool. Although the male character, what's his name in real life,
Ray
Ray
Stevenson.
Ray Stevenson, I think he needed to get it together a little bit with the lightsaber stuff. It looked a little choppy to me at first, but then he got like it got better. Like you mentioned, the single combat scenes with him I thought were really good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the scenes in this series where they're deflecting um, laser fire,
Mm-hmm.
like that's the stuff that kind of looks a
Really
little
bad.
rough.
Yeah.
But the single combat with him was great, and his acting obviously was good. There's this theory that they are the origin of the Knights of Ren, possibly.
Oh, finally makes
And
those characters interesting.
right, so like,
Terrible
and
theory.
it,
Let me shoot this one down after you're done,
and,
Andrew.
and it's kind of and it's kind of like, they're like, because we don't know what their motivation is, and I'm left after watching this tonight. I'm like, what were they like? He was going on about like his path is different. I didn't quite understand
he
what
seemed
he
to
was
want to
doing.
break the
Why did he go?
cycle of the good and
Like
evil back and
Khaleesi from
Yeah,
forth.
Game of Thrones.
Breaker of
Chris.
chains.
yeah, like yeah, he didn't want to quite be dark, but he didn't quite want to be a light Jedi. I guess he's in between, or whatever. And if they are the origin of the Knights of Ren, I guess that's their purpose, is to find this new world and create. They want to find a new world that's away from everything. And he mentions to her, "We're going to start our whatever we're doing. We're going to start it here." So that was kind of interesting. And the fighting with them was cool. I think the girl has a thing for Sabine, the way she looks
it,
at her.
it was
Yeah,
very.
And
that's
that's all
on
I gather
Twitter.
from that.
Yeah, that's like
Twitter has
people
been
are
very
shooting it
big
to
on
you.
I'm okay
that.
with it.
Okay, yeah, there's something
It's
there
okay.
that's
Approved.
yeah, yeah, we're with it, yeah, yeah. But
Jeez.
Come
that's the
on, James.
extent
It's a
of much
family show.
I can comment on
I didn't say anything.
that. Yeah.
All right, Mike, what did you think of
Yeah,
Balin
so
and Shin?
they had an interesting arc journey quest throughout the season. It was weird to me that he just let her go like that. Said basically, you know, you're on your own now. Figure it
Yeah,
out. She, yeah,
I
I
got
got
my
my thing to
thing.
do. You need to go kill them. I'll see you. See you when I see you. You know. So I mean, at the end, she found her way, I guess, and um, she joined up with
Sort of.
the red sand people, whatever they are.
The, the, the red sand
No, they're
people.
not sand people. Don't you
Call
dare.
That's right,
call
the
them the
clay
clay
people.
people.
And he's standing on the
Clay people.
mountaintop. So I don't know why that was necessary, but I'm interested to see what they do since Ray Stevenson is dead. If they recast, or hopefully they recast. I saw a picture of the guy who played Sabretooth in the Wolverine movie. He played his brother, Leaf
Liv
Schreiber.
Schreiber.
Yeah,
I saw that
Schreiber.
today,
Yeah,
Mike.
I heard
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
Gerald
that'd be a good
Butler.
choice too. I
No,
think he's probably too
sure.
expensive though. But
I think Schreiber is a much
Too
better actor.
expensive. Man, you
plane,
see the last movie he did?
plane, right?
Greenland, whatever that
Yeah.
was? Yeah. Oh, the plane? Yeah, man. He's on the Disney
True.
budget list.
Plane was fun.
Yeah,
Plane was all right.
I don't know. Uh, yeah, I'm just gonna say that Shin Hati. Um, I just laughed when.
She's like the doctor from
Yeah,
Star
yeah,
Trek.
that's true. But
It's
I
that
just laughed
hair.
when she took off running. So
Yeah.
yeah,
She's like,
Drop your weapon. Yeah, okay, whatever.
all right, James. I know you
Um,
you like this character. I know you like
yeah,
Balin from the start.
Balin definitely. But going back to what Andrew mentioned about the theory of the Knights of Ren, that's all predicated on the fact that the suit and armor that they're both Balin and Shen seems to wear. It has like the old medieval knight type of
oh, right.
Yeah,
outfit.
I noticed that. It was cool.
Um,
Very, very, very like
that's the
Templar-ish,
only
right? Yeah, yeah.
tie-in because there's a deeper tie-in for those of us who were, followed the legends, the old
Yeah.
stories that are no longer part of the Disney canon. There's the Gray Jedi. There's all types of other Jedi, by the way, but you have the Sith, then you have the Jedi, and then you have other dark Force users that are not Sith, like the Night Sisters themselves. And then with the whole statue of Mortis gods, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but that's supposed to represent the Father, the Force, the good and the bad, the Trinity. That's what I think the more popular theory is with Balin. Now, overall, I think Balin's character was to me the MVP of the show. Is not just because of Ray Stevenson's acting, and I agree with you. The choreography. I mean, you could tell there was very little stunt work for him. It was just really him
Yeah.
hacking away. I think that Dave Filoni is bringing something that's only exists in the legends right now. Is the whole concept of the Gray Jedi, the in between Jedi. Unfortunately, and I think Mike said this too, is it seemed to fall flat in the last two episodes where Shin, who he actually chastises Sabine and Ezra as being rogue Jedi's or Boken Jedi's. They're without masters. They're just learning their own. And now you just dump your own apprentice to learn on her own. Like everything you said that was wrong about
Right.
these other two, you're now inflicting on your own apprentice for a larger mission that you haven't really talked about. I think, and it's a shame that the actor passed, and I know there's potential of recasting, but I hope season two really focuses on that, and if not in season two, at least in the Thrawn movie that's supposed to put a bow tie to this entire saga.
All right. Well, speaking of new members, we got to talk about Thrawn. So, this was weird because I've heard a lot. Like, just as a fan of Star Wars, people talk about this guy as basically the second coming of evil Jesus, and like he's supposed to be the smartest thing and the best character, and unfortunately, and I'm not sure, some combination of writing, directing, acting, I don't know what it is, he was not compelling so far. Now, you get a character who's supposed to be a big brain character. That's all got to come from dialogue more than action, right? It's got to come from making the way other characters talk to them, and the way they talk to other characters, and what's built around that character. And I did not get that in this series, and it's not the only character that I felt that way from. But I'll say, like, unfortunately, Paunchy Thrawn was not felt like a danger to the universe
Pantalones.
to me. All right. So I'm gonna go around the horn, let you guys tell me what you know of, what you think of Thrawn. I'll start with you, Andrew.
I read the Timothy Zahn trilogy many years ago. The books belonged to my brother. He handed them down to me. I read them. I was a little too young to really fully understand them, but I remember Thrawn from those books being like one of the most interesting characters in that trilogy, because he's this guy who rose to the top without Jedi powers, and like the book really pins him as this genius, as you said, Chris. Um, I don't think we got much of that yet in this series, because it's just like, oh, it's the return. I think a lot of this show is, conditional that you've seen Rebels and seen Clone Wars. Obviously, that seems to be the theme of this. Um, because I didn't, yeah, like you said, like he didn't really impress me in the two episodes that he was in. He did a couple of strategic things that were like pretty cliche as far as like how to get away from people, etc. But I'm hopeful that in season two, like they're making such a big deal that this one guy is back in the galaxy. I'm hoping that in season two that pays off. Like we see this guy, like he's able to just do these really cool things. So, but yeah, we didn't get that in this season. But I really feel as if, because we got him at the last two episodes, and
So I'm just gonna add
All
a
right,
couple quick
Mike.
points to that. Yeah, they didn't really show him as the genius that he's portrayed to be in the books and in the animated series as well. He's really good in the animated series. But in the end, he did get everything he was trying to accomplish. So it may not have been the smartest way he went about it, but he did achieve all his goals, right? He stranded Ahsoka. I obviously he didn't know about Ezra, but he stranded the rest of them. He got his 100% of his cargo on board. The Night Sisters are with him now, and he's back in the galaxy where he's supposed to be. So, you know, we'll see how it develops in season two.
James.
I mean, honestly, I'm not going to waste too much time on this because to me, from the books and the animated show, it's a huge left with the live action version that I can't even begin to understand what the hell Dave Filoni put on paper to portray this character that, again, he's one of the most heralded villains, and short of Palpatine and Vader, like his ascendance into the Empire, like Andrew said, with no force powers. He was an alien
Mhm.
Palpatine was infamous for being racist against alien species. Humans, mostly human white males.
Mhm.
And yet this
Right.
guy rose to one of
British.
the, right
Yeah.
below Grand Moff Tarkin. He was right below Tarkin from his sheer intellect and his his ruthlessness. And I didn't see that in these episodes. And I think maybe, and I heard this earlier today from the Midnight Boys, I have to give them credit, was that perhaps Thrawn shouldn't have been revealed until maybe a teaser like Thanos. Like again, Disney was touting this is supposed to be the Thanos of this new saga, right? This little the verse that they're calling it. Okay, give us bits and pieces of what Thanos built from the first Avengers movie all the way through right before Infinity War, right? And then the whole mission with him and the Night Sisters like didn't make any sense because again, if you're focusing what the Night Sisters are in the animated shows or in the Legends books, like they're not really for the Empire either. They're not for any of that stuff. So
No.
like this
I, I,
connection
I
didn't work
needed I
either.
needed some kind of connection between the two because it
Yeah,
wasn't
I can see
clicking for me.
Thrawn trying to manipulate them to get what he ultimately wants his position in the Empire, but this just didn't work for me,
Yeah,
man. This
so
is
we
not.
were
This
talking
is
about
what I'm
that earlier
saying.
about Morgan deciding to when Thrawn was like, "You don't mind staying behind while I jet back home, do you?" And she was like, "Whatever you need, boss." And Morgan stayed on the planet.
It
Like,
made no
yeah, we were
sense.
talking about why would she have this loyalty to the Empire, and to him when a chaotic galaxy is beneficial to her as opposed to if the Empire is back in business, there would be more order, right? And you can't get away with what you want to
Well,
get away with.
it, and this is what weirds me out about this series. Okay, so I get Balin linking with these people, seeing them as a path to get him to this planet that he wants to be on. Because then he just jets off on his own, says, "Fuck you guys, I'm gone." Right? Great.
He tells you this before he leaves. He goes, "Yeah, for some this, for some that, but for us, we have a different mission." So
Right,
we get it.
exactly. Now, the Night Sisters, like, does she just. I thought maybe, okay, she just wants to link up with her sisters. She just wants to go home. That's what she wants to do. But now all of a sudden she's taking orders and they're doing whatever he says. And he's like for the Empire. So he's I would I would assume as a new watcher, okay, so this guy's just a big empire lover. That's what he wants in his life. He wants a great big empire. And the Night Sisters, I don't know what they want. I guess I assume they're loyal to him, but I don't know why because this is obviously their home, but on his way out they lose a sister who's obviously they don't have a lot of them left and he destroys their house. Like he's like, shoot the house, and they're like,
Well,
oh
they were
shit,
going home to
like
Dathomir, right? So
what?
that's where they ended up when they came out of hyperspace.
Yeah, they're
Right.
returning to
Yeah.
the ancestral homeworld, or
Wait,
from the ancestral homeworld
wait,
of
No,
weren't they
Dathomir.
on
no.
Dathomir today?
No,
Dathomir's in
no,
the
No, no.
Republic Galaxy. Yeah.
and the Star Wars Prime Galaxy,
The
I
one that
was very
where they were
confused.
on
Okay,
Isbridia.
I thought this
Yeah.
was all happening on.
which is in
Okay,
the
Yeah.
external galaxy.
okay, that's where I was confused. Okay, so they want a
Right.
passage home.
Yes.
Could be, but I wish somebody would have been like the sisters
Something.
talking amongst themselves, something to make it more interesting. Like I why they're there or how they got there or why they're with this or what they're doing, some sort of motivation. All right, speaking of lacking motivation, let's talk about Ezra. So
Oh, forgot about him.
yeah. So this will be our last character we're talking about. So Ezra Bridger, from according to this show, has been gone for 10 years, living with some minor Ninja Turtles, and just sitting like a mile and a half from Thrawn, who's got a giant ship and a bunch of soldiers, but not really looking for the guy he
No,
was trying
no,
to
no. Stop! I'll
destroy,
stop you there. He
I
wasn't a mile
guess.
from Thrawn. He was a mile from the Sisters Temple. Probably on the
Well,
other
where was
side of the
Thrawn?
planet in this.
Wasn't he in this?
Because remember, they had to wait for the. God, what's the name of his ship? The
Chimera.
Chimera had to come up and dock, right? So it was probably on the other side of the planet for all we know.
We're guessing.
Yeah, but it wasn't there to
But
begin
yeah,
with.
like do
Hmm.
it for what?
No,
Okay,
but
yeah,
I get what you're
whatever.
saying. Like
This is
he was
very
only a
weird.
mile from the sisters to begin with, and they couldn't sense he was like around the
Right,
corner.
right, exactly. And like, why didn't Thrawn have all that shit on his ship waiting? Like, as soon as
Out
they
of
get
here.
here, I'm out of here. Like,
We
oh,
need
we
three
gotta yeah,
days,
hold on,
three
it's gonna take some
rotations.
time to load. Okay, 3 days. Anyway, so Ezra. Okay, so it could have been interesting, sort of like kind of a fun character, trying to be a more positive uh, Jedi. But then the weird part about Ezra was I couldn't tell if he had like if this character was supposed to be alone on this planet for all this time. It seemed like when we first meet him, he's like, "I don't need a lightsaber. You keep it. The Force is my ally." I was like, "Okay, dope. He's we're gonna get this kind of guy, right? He's now risen above the need. He's now." And then the first thing he does in the next episode is build himself a lightsaber and go back to all the basic fighting techniques. Doesn't seem to have done anything beyond being a basic Jedi dude at all. Like there was nothing to that character after you first meet him. So I'm just in a weird
Listen,
place with that
uh,
character. Like I
Chris,
didn't
you hit the
see
mark without
anything.
even knowing the character from Rebels, is because the character from Rebels, as Mike mentioned earlier, was a little bit annoying until maybe season 2 or so, when he started getting really involved in some of the rebel activities they were doing, and then he started training under Kanan when they realized that he was force sensitive. Um, but even then, he was like, there was some episodes of his character where you could see he has potential to be a dark side user, to the point where Vader tried to tempt him. Palpatine and the World Between Worlds tried to tempt him.
And Maul,
They
yeah.
saw and Maul. Great episodes too.
Man, I didn't get
And
any
that's
kind
the
of
thing,
questioning
like you
from
watch
this.
and you watch him come full circle after Kanan makes the ultimate sacrifice, and now he's without a master, but he's still with the rebel crew, and he takes that position that Kanan used to as the force wielder, and he makes that ultimate sacrifice in the end of the animated show to take Thrawn into this other world, and he tells them, and Sabine understands what he's doing, but Hera's fighting him. Like this character had such a great arc.
Yeah.
The best arc was his character on the show, and
Hmm.
now we see him like, what the fuck, like
Like, why was he not so pissed off at this? She's like, I spent 10 years on this hellhole
and you're
with
telling
these
me
fucking
you came
turtles,
back
and
and you're
you
about to, and
you
Thrawn
just
now has a chance to go back after Kanan died. All the
what the
people that
hell
we
are you
knew that were
doing?
part of the rebels
You
died fighting Thrawn. I trapped myself for 10 years and you just said, fuck it, I gotta get Ezra. I told you. He told her, I gotta make the sacrifice. Great moment in the animated show,
like
by the way.
Yep. Yep.
where is the tension? Where is the conflict, Dave Filoni? Tell me, where are you hiding it? What
Also, it
pocket
seemed
did you
like his
put it
force
in?
ability also
Season
took a
two. This
step
is all going
back
to be in season
from
two.
10 years prior when he was just a kid. Like, you see, like I thought when he was like, Chris, to your point, when he was like, the force is my ally. I don't like he's going to show you some other like the whole he's going to show you other levels of force um mastery that he did
Force fu.
without.
I
But
want some damn
no,
force
you're
fu.
right. Very next episode, he's constructing a lightsaber that up until this moment we thought took time. You had to imbue your essence into it, all that stuff. And nope, he just needs
Some
double A
spirituality.
batteries and a freaking screw at the
And
bottom.
Open the hood. Open the hood, Huang. I'm gonna make a lightsaber.
That was other than Sabine, that was my biggest issue with was the Ezra character in the show. And Ahsoka a little bit, but mostly Ezra and Sabine. Just
yeah.
All
sorry.
right, Mike.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say is there seems to be some kind of disconnect with Dave Filoni when it comes to what happened at the end of Rebels and what's going on with these characters now. And I don't know why. You know what I mean? Like, what's with the disconnect
Mhm.
here? You know, do you have something planned? I hope you have something planned. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's just like
Mm-hmm.
everybody's saying what happened to these characters. You know what I mean? And you're not. There's no answers right now. So, although, can I add though,
Andrew?
the guy playing Ezra,
Oh,
I thought he
yeah.
did a good job
Oh yeah,
embodying
no issues
the
with the actor, by the way.
mannerisms.
I mean,
Yeah,
He
the
looked the
mannerisms and the
part.
voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just yeah.
Yeah. So the last person I talked to that was like a Rebels fan and did the whole like, oh, you haven't seen Rebels thing to me was he mentioned to me that Ezra was very important because he could do things with the Force that nobody else could do. That's what he mentioned to me without ruining
Yes.
anything. I don't know what that means at all, but I thought like what you guys said. Maybe he was when he refused the lightsaber, he was gonna start like like crazy things were gonna happen, and then yeah, it didn't pay out in the next episode. Like you said. Other than that, I honestly like having gone into this series knowing that they were gonna eventually meet up with Ezra and hearing so much about him from other people, I thought they were gonna kill him. I thought he was gonna die. And I thought that was gonna be super interesting, like if they had killed him. Like they do all this, they make this huge effort. And what you mentioned before, Chris, about the consequences of making a bad decision from Sabine, she betrays her master. She gets on this ship and goes to rescue this guy, and
No,
then he
people
dies.
are
Like I thought that
revolted.
that's
Literally
what I
if
thought that that's what they were
no,
gonna
if they
do.
if they had done that in
Yeah,
season one, there'd be riots in the street. I can tell you that.
Right. Apparently,
Mhm.
this is from somebody who doesn't know Ezra. Apparently, everybody loves him very much, and
Yeah.
that would have been just a terrible thing to do. But yeah, I mean, he meant the same thing with Sabine to me. He meant absolutely nothing to me
right,
in this
yeah.
series. Like it was just like 2 episodes, and he wasn't. I can't even say he was like cool with the fighting or anything. Like he was. He is in one scene though that is like in my mind. I'm like, oh, there's zombies in Star Wars now.
Right.
he
Like we have
decapitated one of
zombies.
them. You know,
That's
the
kind of
Disney
cool.
allows one decapitation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's all I got with him.
All right. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna grade the series, and then I'm gonna ask you guys to put this in the list of Disney Plus live action series by season, because there's some obviously Mando has 3 seasons and everything else is one, so it's hard to say as a series this one, because sometimes the seasons waver quite a bit. So I'm going to ask you to put them in order by season. I think there's only 6 total. I had the list, I put it on Twitter, you guys know mine already. So yeah, that's what you're going to do. So you're going to give me your grade and then tell me where this lands. Now you can give me your whole list, or you can just tell me this lands last. This lands first, whatever you feel like. So I'll go first, just so we can get it there. I'm going to give this season a C plus, and it had hits and misses. I don't want to be completely negative. I think it had some amazing one-on-one action sequences were great. I think Dave Filoni, just like his mentor George Lucas, has grand ideas about Star Wars and the world, but sucks at writing dialogue for those characters and does not. It sucks, whatever. So all of that, I'm giving it a C plus, and I've been wrangling with my location where it fits, and unfortunately, right now, it's below Obi-Wan, but
Mm.
above Boba Fett. So it'd be Andor 1,
I'm looking at your list,
Mandalorian
Chris. Go
season
ahead.
1, number 2, Mandalorian season 3, season 2, number 3. Then it's rewatching those first 3. Definitely do that first because they're better than everything else. Then Obi-Wan, then Ahsoka, and then last
Oh,
but
you
not least,
forgot
Boba
Mando
Fett.
season 3
And the reason,
above Boba
oh,
Fett.
Mando
Yeah,
season 3, shit. I think
yeah.
this
I
is
have
just
your
above
list.
Boba Fett. Yeah. Boba Fett was very painful. And I say that, and I had episodes of Boba Fett I was very positive on,
The Sand
but as a
People.
whole, that was just like fell apart. Oh god. So that's my list. That's my grade. If you guys, I'm gonna let you guys go first before I do any weird explanations. Andrew, what was your grade for this season, and do you have a list?
I'm gonna say I'm probably gonna grade the highest here out of this group, having not known a lot of these other series. I'm gonna go with a B plus, and the reason I'm gonna go with a B plus is because I just again I really enjoyed the Ahsoka character, not knowing her like from previous things. Like she's just like, to me it's like a new character that's just really exciting to me. Like I really enjoy her a lot, and the action was cool. Um, whatever it is that Dave Filoni doesn't do well, one thing that I think that he does do well as opposed to other people that have taken a crack at the Star Wars franchise is Dave Filoni understands that the reason the original trilogy was very good was because of not everything that's going on in the universe, but it's the relationships between the characters. And maybe he didn't execute it as well in this, but I can tell that he understands that um, like friendship and love and all those good things are that's the theme of Star Wars. Like what are people willing to do for their to save up people that they care about, right? They're willing to bend rules and all sorts of things like that. So I would say that Mandalorian season 1 and 2 are at the top for me of all
Mm-hmm.
these series that have happened so far. I'm gonna place Obi-Wan at the bottom, and that's probably not a popular opinion. The re-
No, actually, I mean,
the reason I put Obi-Wan
fine.
at the very bottom is I don't think an Obi-Wan series should exist. That's a topic of conversation for another time. I don't think that should exist, that whole storyline. So I put that at the bottom. I would put Mando 1 and 2. I would put this series above Boba, and Andor is up there too. So I would do Mando season 1 and 2, Andor, um, this series, Book of Boba, and then
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately Obi Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
All
what you
right.
want. Hey. All right, Mike.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give this one a B this season. I really did enjoy this show, and I actually am gonna say I enjoyed this more than I did Andor because this encompassed what watching Star Wars is for me. The
Okay.
journey, the adventure, combat, things like that. No. You guys watched Andor. You watched a spy thriller for 12 episodes, basically.
A
You
good
know what I
one.
mean? Huh?
James
Of
Bond. It was
course,
like the
it's
James
of
Bond.
course it was a great one. I gave the show an A. So I'm ranking this show lower than I am Andor. But in terms of rewatchability, I would probably want rewatch Ahsoka before I watch Andor again. And so I'm going to rank
I
it
agree with
higher
you.
than Andor on this. Probably below Mando season 1, um, above Obi Wan. Although I did also kind of I enjoyed Obi Wan. So
I love how all over the place we are.
And
Just like let
everybody's
me say
yeah,
point
that out
here. I
loud.
have a quick
This is
counter. But go
great.
ahead, Mike. Finish your.
yeah. So I think that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Um. All
All
right.
right.
So
James, it'd be you.
gather my thoughts here. My grade for this is a C, straight C. There was two great episodes. One great episode the World Between Worlds.
5.
Five, and I believe the one right after that where we got more of Balin. Those were good episodes. Um,
Well, I like the one before that where they were on the ship and they fought, and then Balin
yeah, that was
knocks her
okay.
off
That those three
before World
episodes
Between.
to me is what carried it from an F to D show to a C. My issues are plenty, but I'm going to keep it short. We're running out of time. I think going to Mike's point about this was you enjoyed it more than Andor. Honestly, Obi-Wan was a more Star Wars series out of all of these series because of the key points of the Vader, Obi-Wan, the Chosen One. The lightsaber duel between Obi and Vader outranks any duel that I saw in this show. Yet I'm gonna put this show above Obi-Wan because that writing was even more poor. So throw away whether this was Star Warsy or not. Just on face value, this show to me had a lot of potential, poor execution. Andor number one, Mando season, the first season number two, Mando season two, my third pick, and this is where Chris and we differ. I actually put Ahsoka above Obi Wan because I had more enjoyment in those three episodes, 4, 5, and 6, than I had in any of the episodes other than when the Obi and Anakin final fight. To me was like, okay, they finally put closure between these two. That was good, but that was not enough for me to make that show above Ahsoka. Mandalorian season three, and then all of the animated Star Wars Disney Plus shows in whatever order you want, even the shorts behind the scenes. Dead last, Boba Fett.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. This was a fun conversation. This was probably our longest conversation in a while.
Wow, no breaks too.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike.
More depth than we've had.
We're good. I'll split it somewhere.
All right, Mike. Where can people find us and tell us what they think of Ahsoka, and confirm that I'm right about my order of the best to worst in Disney television?
Well, if you want to let us know why you think Chris is completely wrong, we're all over the internet at Heroes Peak, Facebook.
I get that
Twitter,
at home.
Instagram.
You don't need to be on the internet for that.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell to get notifications and leave a comment below.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. You're welcome anytime you feel like it.
Love being here.
You're
Great.
Yeah, and please for people follow Andrew. Andrew, you could feel free to plug your own social media, but also leave a ranking order of what you think so far of these Disney Plus shows. I know we just ranked it at the end, but I'm curious to get other people's rankings to see how far we are, because all four of us were maybe Chris and I were similar, but
there's always one or two things that are kind of all over the place.
Especially Andrew's point takes with Mando versus Andor, but that's interesting. Obi-Wan too. Wow, that's interesting.
Don't think it should exist, but yeah.
That's all right. I have some unpopular opinions too when it comes to Star Wars. All right, guys. You all have a good week. We'll see you later.
Good night.
Night.
Hey, Indigo made the beat.